Welcome to the Playful Domme, the Poly Wife, and the Virgin podcast, where we share our most intimate stories, experiences, and details of our love lives, our intimacy lives, our play lives, and giving you the opportunity to gaze in and get a glimpse of what could be possible in your life as well. As we share our stories, our adventures, we weave in tips, tricks, and techniques to help build your confidence, boost your courage, and give you the opportunity to ask for what you want in your life. Welcome to the podcast. Oh, and just a couple of quick thoughts before we get started. One, we are just everyday people. We are not professionals, licensed therapists, anything like that. This is for edutainment purposes only. This is not medical advice or legal advice, financial advice, nothing like that. Listen at your own discretion. And this is for mature audiences. We're going into deep subjects and sharing deeply about intimacy and all the things about that. So just notice who you're around and let's go. Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Playful Domme, the Poly Wife, and the Virgin podcast, where three of us women come together to share about our escapades, explorations, journeys, and adventures into intimacy within ourselves, with others, and with the world. So today, we're talking about new relationship energy, the wheel of consent, a different take on it, and an update on the Tantra chair. What's going on with that thing? So, and a quick update also about me, Jess, the Playful Domme, about my HPV treatments I've been doing on the magical island of Hawaii. So let's start with Lisa. Lisa, take it away.
Hello, everybody. I have been doing some deep dive thinking about, I had an experience with a client and another experience with a lover. And I have been, in both experiences, I was a giver. I was the giver in one experience with the client. I was the giver. I was providing what it was that he was asking for. And then with my lover, we were just, engaged in fun, sexy things. And he was saying, he was giving me oral and it was not enjoyable. And I was wanting to ask him to do it in a way that was more pleasant. Like, for instance, let's just be blunt. He was going at my clit really pretty hard with his tongue. He was using his tongue as a finger and kind of flicking me around. And I do not enjoy do not enjoy manual stimulation, and I do not enjoy mock manual stimulation with the tongue. I'm okay with oral sex. I absolutely adore it, but I need a nice, slow, sort of more broad tongue approach to my vulva and labia and clit. And while I was asking him to adjust slightly, or, slow down, gentle. And maybe it's because I don't know how to ask well, or they become the men I have been with become so excited about having pussy to eat that they're, there's like, it's, yummy, delicious pussy, that they forget that there's a receiver who, it is about them. But it made me start thinking about the wheel of consent. And I have been applying the wheel of consent to all of my relationships and all of my actions. And
so, Lisa, can you quickly just describe to our audience, for those who might be unfamiliar, what the wheel of consent is quickly, and also the woman who created it is Betty Dodson, right? No,
Betty Martin.
Betty Martin.
Yeah. So if you Google Betty Martin and Wheel of Consent, you'll get all of the very specifics. But in essence, in its most essential description, the Wheel of Consent is a circle with 4 quadrants. And there are 2 pairs of opposite quadrants There is a giver and a receiver, and a taker and an allower. And both the receiver and the taker are the people experiencing or asking for pleasure. It could be, it's touch. It could be, can I borrow your car? I'm a receiver saying, can I borrow your car? As the giver, you would say, yes, you can borrow my car. Just, fill it up with gas. That would be the negotiation in a giver-receiver thing. The receiver asks for what they want and the giver provides what it is that they want. In a taker-allower, the taker says, like for me, for instance, one of the first things that I like to start with actually is giving oral, because giving oral for me is something that I really enjoy, and it really gets my motor going and gets my pussy really wet if I'm giving a great blowjob and getting a nice response. And so in that particular case, I'm asking, can I use your body for my pleasure? And in this case, may I give you oral in order for me to have pleasure? It doesn't mean that the person giving or allowing isn't experiencing pleasure. It's about who's asking and who's doing. So in the wheel of consent, I would ask my partner, can we start with a blowjob? Because I just want to give a blowjob because that gives me a lot of pleasure and I'll really enjoy that. And he'll say yes. And so in this particular case, I started thinking about giving and receiving specifically, because I'm focusing on, so in my entire life, in my entire sexual life, I have been an allower. Either men have had permission to have sex with me or they have not had permission to have sex with me. And I never asked for sex. I never asked for pleasure of any kind. I grew up in an era in which women, the constant message in all of the magazines and television was how to please your man and how to give the best blowjob and how to dress sexy for, your friends or whatever. So my experience has all been about allowing. So I want the man to be able to use my body for their pleasure. They can take and I allow, right? So now in this in the exercise of me having multiple or different sexual experiences, I'm learning to ask for what I want so that I can be a receiver and somebody can give me what it is that they want. But I realize that I have a real difficult time asking for what I want, knowing how to ask for what I want, and getting the message across. And a perfect example is my husband. I use him as a good example a lot of the time because he is a giver. He loves to be in, his love language is being in service to others. So, but what I realized is if he's giving, and I'm not talking even sexually at this point, he does my laundry, he cleans the house, these are his acts of service. He does it intentionally to please me. Like I came home the other day from a work weekend and I said, oh my God, the house looks fantastic. And he says, yeah, I really wanted you to have a lovely re-entry because you've been gone for so long. It was after we had been gone for 3 weeks. He got home before I did and cleaned up after the hurricane. He says, I really wanted you to have a nice re-entry. And that was wonderful. And I really greatly appreciated it. And then I asked him to do a couple of things and he didn't get them done. He did other things. And I realized, and I thought about the wheel of consent, and I realized that even though he identifies as a giver, because I'm not asking, because he's giving me what it is that I want, he's actually a taker. And this is not taker in a derogatory or negative sense at all. It just means that what he's doing for his pleasure. He's doing it for his motivation. It's not what I want. And I did exactly the same thing. I made beef stroganoff one night and I called up a friend and I said, you've been having difficulty. Your house is in shambles because of the hurricane and I want to send you some dinner. And she was really grateful. She was so happy, but she didn't ask anybody for food. She didn't ask for help of any sort. So in that case, while I'm giving somebody something and they are deriving pleasure from it, they are receiving that pleasure, honestly, she's actually allowing me the opportunity to be generous with my food. Does that make sense? Everybody's getting something that they want. But so when I was receiving this oral, I realized this man believes that he is giving me pleasure. He's not asking what feels good, if the pressure is good, if the pace is good, and he's not reading my body. He doesn't feel me sort of backing away from him when he's, you know, sort of pressing hard on my clit. And I realized that I was in a situation where I was engaged in sex with somebody who believed that they were giving, but really all I was doing was allowing him the pleasure of my pussy. And I wasn't receiving pleasure from it, but he was hoping for an orgasm. And then I have a new guy in my life, and he and I were engaged in sex. And he didn't ask, I didn't ask, but naturally this was something that Johnny mentioned in a couple of podcasts ago about being in tune with each other. Attunement. My body was clearly giving signals, and he was so attuned to me that I came twice with manual stimulation. Completely shocked me. And I felt as though I was receiving, because my body was, even though I was quiet, my body was asking for certain ways to be touched, and he completely was attuned to it and gave me what it was that I was clearly asking for. And so this has been really fascinating. And now I am also experiencing, I have a sub that I've just begun to engage with. And because I want to experience the opportunity to be more of a dom in my sexual experience. And honestly, I've given him instructions. He has followed them completely. I'm not engaged. I'm not interested in a relationship with him. I don't believe at all that we're going to be lovers or anything like that on an ongoing basis. But he's following my direction, and I am receiving, and he is giving me the things that I want for my pleasure, but it's giving him so much pleasure to do it, right? He wants the experience of being caged. And so we're talking about that back and forth, and he's sending me photos, and we're doing a caging ceremony next week. And he has asked for what he wants and how he wants that caging ceremony to go. And I'm arranging for that. And I'm asking for what I want, and I feel like as a dom, I get to practice my taking too, and do the doing and get the pleasure from the doing. I don't know if that makes sense or if I'm talking in circles, but it's been really an eye-opening thought process.
And share with our audience what caging is.
Oh, okay. So it has been his fantasy to have in many cases, it's metallic. It is a chastity. It's not a belt, but it's a chastity cage for the cock and balls, so that the person wearing it cannot have an erection, and it keeps them in a small, constricted space, so that so I'm really excited about that. And so he wants to be caged. He does not want to be caged on a long-term basis. It's simply when we are together. And so for our first date, I've known him for a while, so it's technically our second date. But yeah, I'm caging him, and then making him take me out to dinner, and that's the end of the experience. And then the second time, he really has a fantasy about cleaning for me. So he would like me to use him to scrub my floors on his hands and knees, be as a caged sub.
So funny. It's so funny how submissives are, especially when they want to please, but it's for themselves. And I know this, right? So like the number of what I consider like true, I'll be a little judgmental, I guess, in this moment. Like, I believe that there's like true-hearted submissives where it does bring them joy to serve, but they come from such a such a purity about it that
Mhm.
it feels honoring. It feels beautiful, you know, and I can count on one hand the number of men who've done that for me, and that I felt that way,
Mhm.
where they really are there to be of service. The majority of other men who claim that they are, just like you mentioned about like the most men claim to be givers, I can't tell you how many times, like when I'm doing sessions with men and they're like, oh, I'm a giver, oh, I'm a giver, but it is nothing about me, and I know it. It's for themselves. And it's the same thing about, you know, like I had one man in Atlanta, and he's like, oh, I want to be in an apron and naked, and I want to be like your footstool, and like serving you food and champagne to you and your dom girlfriends as you humiliate me, and you know, he has this whole fantasy in his mind, and I'm like, well, that's great, but well, and that's not how really doms are. Too, you know, it's not really for it's not for me, because I'm not, like, to your point, I'm not asking for it. I'm not
Mhm.
saying I want you to come to my house naked, or come inside and I want you to strip down, get naked. I want you to put on this apron, and then I want you to take this tray and carry it very carefully with champagne glasses over to my girlfriends as we sit on the couch and look at you and gaze at you, and then we humiliate you in all the ways you haven't been taking care of your body. And then as we're going to sip on this, you're going to get down on your hands and knees and you're going to become our footstool. Like, there's a completely
Absolutely. That's
different
the
vibe about
taker.
that.
That's the taker. That is asking for what it is. The no
Not even asking, it's commanding.
commanding.
This is being a dominant. This is the thing of power dynamics and giving authority, which is an agreement that the submissive has in consented play. You
Mhm.
know, so in outside of the dom BDSM world, if you're in like a vanilla household and there's a wife that's saying, I'll assume wife, though, in a male female partnership, I'll say, you know, the female being like, I want you to do this and you do that, and and then it comes across as very controlling, and then
That was
the
me in my
man,
life.
and the man is allowing, he's acquiescing, he's doing what is going to, like, it's not even about making her happy, it's just keeping her from being pissed, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and so it's not like they're doing it from a place of joy and pleasure and, you know, all that
Mhm.
stuff. So I do love about BDSM, about that clear distinction of power, and like recognizing that so many of the guys that have these wild crazy fantasies and, oh, I live to serve, and oh, I live to please, I've met 3 men that have really actually meant it,
Mhm.
and are that. And Lisa, you've played with one with Larry, and this is a total side note, but about the acts of service thing, you know, I was realizing that the best men in my life who are submissives and have the most pure heart and mean it, their acts of service to me are actually not BDSM related. Like, I asked Larry if he could drive an hour to my house and go into my house and go to my closet and go through my boxes in my closet to get this particular wallet that I had with some particular credit cards that I needed info on. And he, like, and I've known Larry for quite a while now. And he did it. And then I asked him to go open up my mail and help walk me through, because I'm on in Hawaii and I need a bunch of information. And I gave him permission, and he did, and he took the photos and he walked through every single, like, that hour of his time to like do that for me provided more peace of mind.
Yeah.
Like, his kindness, it touched me so deeply that I was like, I don't have anyone to call. I don't have a boyfriend to call to say, like,
Right.
hey, can you come do this thing for me? Who am I gonna, my best friends are out of town, I can't ask them to come in. Who do I call? I need to get this information. Do I fly home? Can I take a flight? It's $1,400. Would I do that? Maybe. I don't know. And then, like, I thought of Larry and I called him and he was like, yeah, no problem, and he went and did it. You know, it's like, that's the kind of level of service and devotion
Yeah.
I want. That's a level of service and devotion that's like going to have me, that's going to pull you in closer to me. So
for sure.
I invite submissive men, if any of them are listening to this, they're like, what you can actually do to be of service to a dominatrix. Because otherwise it's all just like kind of like play fantasy, but you want to get into my world, you want to get into my world, you want to get into my life, you want to get into like my actual heart, like the outside of the dom space, like, and actually in an authentic kind of connection is how you get there. So another one of my favorite submissives I've talked about, Paul, he's an attorney. I can't tell you how much what he's provided for me over the years in terms of just, you know, all of the stuff that I've been going through in my life, and just being able to talk to him, and like he has brought a level of safety and security in like my own physical body. It's priceless. So I don't know why I got off on that tangent, but there's such opportunity for how we can show up for others in love, and that it doesn't have to look like a certain way, but to being available for the request when it comes in. Like these men are available to me for my requests, and I'm not demanding. They're just they want to serve, and I think that's beautiful. So so to your point about the taking, right? Like when I do massage, I receive so much touch from men. I do allow mutual touch. I say, I just ask you ask beforehand. The only area that's off limits is where my thong is, you know, and you know that's it. And it's just interesting. I could feel in their touch what feels good, but then it's a challenge because sometimes I like it and I do want it. And it's like, I can't give a blanket statement of that. So I say, you know, you know what I mean? Like it's a subtlety, and it's something that I am not sure how you can teach that. But I think about how many men aren't able to connect with women, and they so much want to. They so much want to give. Like it's almost like this like a real driven need, almost like I don't know what the word is, not like a compulsion, but it's like they have a need for the, like there's just something, I don't, does that make sense? There's like something underneath them that's almost like crazed. There's like a crazed part of them that like needs the connection and is grasping and like wanting, you know, the thing from the woman. And because they haven't really learned, they haven't become attuned, Lisa, it becomes more of a rejection piece, which drives deeper their feelings of shame and unworthiness, and you know, hurt and pain that like, oh, I'm getting rejected again by a woman. So it puts like women in my work in a very interesting position, because it's like I don't desire to have them feel more ashamed, but then that's putting me into a state of allowing. And
that's exactly right. And that's exactly where my husband and I are. He desperately wants to make me happy, but he's not attuned to what it is that I need, for instance. So he gives what it is that he wants to give and
what he thinks you want.
What he thinks I want. And most of the time, so for instance, cleaning the house isn't for me. He likes a clean house. He also wants me to have a clean house and for me not to have to do it. But I can clean the house. He did something like he fills my car up with gas. That's for me. Like I was heading out to Atlanta. It was 8:00 at night or 8:30 at night, and I was leaving at 4 a.m. And I said, oh crap, I didn't fill up the car with gas. He says, let me do that for you. That is an act of service for my sole benefit. And I was in the middle of cooking something, and Sapio was coming over, and I needed time. One thing, and it wasn't that important because I had dried. He says, I'll run to the store and grab it for you. And so he hops to, if I say, do you know where my glasses are? He'll say, let me get up, and he'll start looking for them. I don't need him to look for them. I just want to know if he's seen them because I'm in the process of looking for them. But you're absolutely right, Jess. If I point out to him, well, that's not really what I wanted you to do. I would prefer that you, I don't know, scrub the floors or whatever. It makes him feel bad, sick, and wrong. And it does bring up the, if they consider themselves givers and their giving isn't satisfying to their partner, they take it as rejection instead of attuning to what it is and asking, well, what would make you happy? What would you like? And I think that is a real, and it's a couple of things, because he has a great girlfriend that I absolutely adore. And I'm not sure that he's meeting her needs either. And now he's going out to start dating. And there was an article recently in Psychology Magazine about the state of men, that there is a growing surge of men who identify as lonely. And it's because they can't find matches. And it's because women have decided that they can clean their house on their own. They can do they can do a lot on their own. What they're looking for is a man to be emotionally available, be willing to communicate, to be able to do the self-evaluation and make themselves more readily available. And so men are having a lot of difficulty dating because women's standards are a lot higher now. And they're, especially women, at least at my age, in their 50s, are like, yeah, I'm done with allowing, right? Now I want to be the receiver. I'm not willing to just allow them to do the best to their ability. I want to actually get my needs met too.
And I think it goes back to, and we've talked about this before, is the ultimate the ultimate in relationships is vulnerability and then true intimacy. And it's hard for us as women to be truly vulnerable, for myself, most, right?
Right.
And then again, to come back together and have that intimacy. So I think that's what it comes down to.
I have a share that I want to do into the after hours section of our podcast about a session that I had with a new client that was probably the most intimate experience I've had in my life with somebody.
Wow.
And, it was, it rocked me.
That's
right. A few days ago. So we'll have to record that one real quick. But yeah, I agree.
I think it's great. I think it's great insight, Lisa. And I think you're exactly right. I was reflecting back on some of my relationships as well. And it's a lot to think about. Well,
and in the case of my husband, I love him. We've got a lot of time invested in our marriage, but he, like a lot of men, feel rejection if what it is that they're giving doesn't feel like it's enough. And so I, not in order to keep the peace, because that's really not a fair assessment, but I have to praise him for the things that he's able to give me, because I'm grateful. Listen, I was actually talking to Jess offline last week, and I was saying, this is a man who really only has 30% to give, but he's giving me 100% of that.
Percent of his 30%. Yeah, that's right.
Right. And then there's somebody like Luke, for instance, who is emotionally available. He's an excellent communicator. He's a great lover. He's all of this. And I get 20%. His effort with me is he's focused on me when he's focused on me. But outside of that, I don't exist. And it's really about the fun that he wants to have. And, let's go have a threesome. Let's go to a swingers party. It's really about his desires and what it is that he wants to do. And so I get 20 to 30% from him when he's really available. And I'm getting 100% of not everything.
30%.
And so it's very interesting. The reasons polyamory works for us so well is because I can get the other percentages from other people in my life, and that seems to work perfect. That balance seems to work, so, which is really great.
Well, it's so he when he's getting feeling rejection, that he's bad and wrong, right? So so there's two pieces. So one to me is that's his own emotional development stuff that he needs to find somebody in, because he's putting you in a place of being the mom. So by you being like, no, Johnny, that's actually not what I wanted. Like that, like the no, to, in my opinion, I'm not a doctor, in my opinion, taking him back to when he's 5. So all he's wanting to do is to please his mother. And so if he's being a good boy, she's pleased, she's happy, she loves him, she's accepting him, he feels good and safe, right? So by you saying, actually, that's not what I wanted, or, you know, whatever it is, feels bad and wrong, rejected, and also unsafe. So it's like, you know, and this is part of the crux of, it shouldn't be on the, unfortunately, it would be nice if like they had a counselor to talk to, or a guide or a coach or a mentor or something like that, so that's not on your shoulders. Because how do you be the wife and the lover and also try to guide and be like, I'm actually not your mom, you're putting me in a mother space? And this is part of the challenge I think that a lot of couples have, is that they revert into parent-child dynamics. And so how to like have us do the work that we need to do on our own to mature into adult you know, dynamics. So that was part one. Part two is, it reminds me when you were sharing about them doing things that you didn't ask for, or, you know, whatever. And then also feeling afraid of, or not knowing how to speak up about what you do desire. And it reminds me of the thing that I learned about and I shared with you back in 2019 with Midori, which is what would please me now. You know? And so to like, again, like it's still, I mean, I'll never forget this example that she gave. And I know I've said this one before, bless you. But it's like, you know what, please, you know, like you have a sexy date planned, supposed to be tonight. And you know what, you're just not feeling it. You're not feeling a sexy date. I don't know what's going to happen. You know, so it's like you come through the door, your partner is expecting the sexy date night. Like they're all hyped up or whatever. You're like feeling like, I'm stressed out. I had a shitty day. The last thing I want to do is now be sexy, right? And so the example she gave is, you know what would really please me is if you, and like come up and like kind of like whisper in their ear a little bit, and it's like, you know I've had a really long day, and you know, and what would please me is having a really nice warm bubble bath poured for me and set up, and maybe some candles and just a glass of wine for me to be able to relax and unwind, maybe have some nice music in the background, and then let's see how I feel about, you know, the sexy date night. How does that sound? Would you do that for me? You know, it's like, who's going to say no to that? Who's going to say no to that? You know, instead of you being like, I'm not in the mood, sorry, I'm having a shitty day. It's like, what would please me? What would please me? Maybe it would please me to have my feet rubbed. But you're giving them a chance to win, right? So that's kind of like, how can we as women not be demanding, not be controlling, you know, not, you know, like cracking the whip because they're not doing the thing right, because they didn't take the trash out the 47th time we asked them, you know, whatever. But it's like, you know, how can we express our desire and what we want and do in a way that that they know they can win, and then you can renegotiate from that point. So that's what I wanted to share.
I think that's critically important. And sadly, it is up to us to figure out how to do the communicating, because men tend not to examine why it is they're experiencing shame, or why it is that they're not feeling you know, if I come across a situation where I'm not getting what I want, or I'm not happy, I look to see why it is that I'm not getting what it is that I want. So for instance, 2 months ago, I took a look, I think actually it was after a conversation with Jess and my doctor. I was talking about, why is it that I am in five basic basically 5 relationships and I'm not having sex in any of them.
Yeah.
Right? Why am I constantly converting into platonic relationships? And it's not about them because they're having sex with other people. It's me that they're not having sex with. So I did the work to figure out what I'm doing, how it is that I'm showing up. And literally the moment I realize what it is that is not working for me, boom, I had more sex in the 1 month than I've had in 3 or 4 months over the summer. And I have lovers just coming at me, and but I want to just circle back for a moment because we are going to run out of time. With the sub that I'm working with, this is absolutely 100% about his pleasure. And I'm giving him the space to experience. I'm doing the doing, so I'm the giver, but he's the receiver. And that's one of the reasons I said, okay, I'm happy to cage you, but then we're going to go out to dinner because I'm not exactly sure what it is I'm getting out of this exchange between us, and I'm not sure that I'm not interested in it. I don't have a deep desire to be a dom. I don't have the imagination. I'd actually have to read a book to figure out how to give instruction. I mean, I had somebody who's in the lifestyle say to me, she's like, oh my God, I just don't have enough money to hire a housekeeper. I'm like, get a sub who wants to be a service sub. And if that's what you desire, have somebody come in, every other week and clean your house naked or something. And that brings them joy because they are the sort of person that really enjoys being in service. They don't mind that kind of service, and it becomes mutually beneficial. But with this guy, my little kinky switch, I'm not exactly sure what I'm getting out of it. So that's one of the things I wanted to sit down and talk to him about, because I'm not that interested in doing all the doing. I'd like to be the done too every once in a while. Right? So,
well, and in our after hours episode, we can also talk about some of the deeper pieces that are connected to the caging and what that signifies and represents for men when they go into those kinds of spaces. So
can we schedule an after hours between now and next Monday?
Yeah.
Could we have a conversation? Well, let's wrap this one up and then we can talk about when we're going to do our after hours. That would be lovely.
Yeah. So, Ella, real quick, give us an update about the Tantra chair. What's going on?
Oh, you guys. So I went to Puerto Vallarta. We ended up having an amazing time. We survived a Category 4 hurricane, got back, and then went right into work. So I am ashamed to say that we haven't had a chance to play with it much. But this weekend, it's coming out. So my son is not with us, and there's no guests and all that. So I'll be able to report next time. I'm looking forward to it. It's lovely. I'll tell you that. But I've been practicing on my massage techniques that with our intimacy coaching, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. And I think you would say the same. So thank you for that, Jess.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. What was coming to my mind as you're about to play with the Tantra chair again, there's something about like having a scarf.
Okay.
And having it, I don't know, I'm trying to remember. I don't know if there's a way to position it, like a long scarf or something, so that your hands can be tied up behind your head while you're laying on the Tantra chair.
Okay, we'll try. We were talking about how we had to review the videos again. They do such a beautiful job with nice sensual videos. So we'll do a little review. But it's really, so far from what we've tested, it's fantastic with a woman on top, because you don't, your legs aren't scrunched under, you actually have leverage. So it's fantastic for that. So I can tell you that already. So
that's exciting. Yeah. I love that. Yay. Well, we can't wait to hear more. And then for me, real quick, today is my last day on Maui for this trip. I completed my final treatment for HPV yesterday. So major celebration. And I have the next couple of months of suppositories to continue having it pulling out of my system and clearing. And then I get tested month 3, so we'll get to find out what the results are. But it's been a beautiful experience. I'm so thankful. I can't wait to share more about the journey and the people that I've worked with. And and it's such a beautiful, incredible place to heal and be in. And I would hands down suggest Maui and Hawaii as a whole for a place to come and heal over anything. And it's such a potent land. It's in 2,500 miles of water surrounding it. It's just this magnet and concentration of healing power, which is and the beauty of it is just incredible. So so thank you all so much for listening to our latest episode of the Playful Domme, the Poly Wife, and the Virgin podcast. Share with us your thoughts, your ideas, your queries, your curiosities, your adventures too. There's so many ways to play. May you take what we share it with your girlfriends, share it with your lovers, share it with people that have it be part of your new conversations to get things going. We're happy to be your Sherpas as you start entering into new explorations of play and you don't know where to begin. This podcast is a great place to start. So to get the conversation going, the sparks flying, and lots of joy and fun and play to be had. So thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you on the next episode. Bye for now.
Want more? Head over to theplayfulpodcast.com for all the juicy things we have to offer. From there, you can join our community where you can get access to after hours, attend upcoming workshops and events, and even book a session. Bye for now.